you for joining me tonight. I've moved the clock, Brian, so there won't be any extra noise, I promise. I absolutely ghosted them. We was doing the premiere and Brian was entertaining us with his dad jokes, which are absolutely amazing, but we've got the giggles. Now, I'm a little bit later tonight because Roy's decided once again that this is now his chair. He doesn't get on it at any other point during the week unless somebody sits in the chair, then it's his chair. So he's over there now. Let me turn it round. I'll show you how comfy he is, because people keep saying maybe he's not comfortable. He's got all of the sofa. Look at all that space he's got. Yes, you. And yet he fights everybody in the house with this tiny little chair that he never sits on at any point. And he's so big, we have to put the buffet in front of the chair so he can fit on. So he's been having everybody over all week, feeling sorry for him on YouTube, and he really is just a scoundrel. Isn't he, Mark? I'm not telling lies, am I, Mark? No. So even Layla had to wrangle him the other day, didn't she? She won in the end, though. She tricked him with treats. She's wily, but yeah. So thank you to everybody who's joined me tonight. I've spent the last 2 weeks since I sat down and chatted with you all, interviewing some new witnesses and trying to catch up on all of the videos that everybody sent me that they want me to watch. You have to bear with me. I'm up to 36 now, so I'm doing my absolute best. If you could timestamp them when you send them over to me, that'd be brilliant, and then I'd know the relevant bit that you want me to talk about. And I've had a number of people comment asking me to look up areas for them where there's sighting reports. I will do that later on, and I'll give everyone a heads up before I do. There's just a few things I wanted to touch on. Some people have asked me what the painting was that went up on, 1 second. Sharon's just asked me. I'm feeling much, much better. I feel more like my normal self now. Sugars are perfect, exactly where they should be. Still got my original disability, but the confusion's a bit better now, isn't it, Mark? I'm not as confused as much. And enjoying myself more and just balancing things out. So, yeah, I do feel much better. There was a painting that I put. I don't know where it's come from. I don't know if it's AI or someone painted it. I couldn't tell you. It was just, if things are important to me, they tend to pop up in threes. And only last month, about 4 weeks ago, regular listeners will know this, but a lady who lives near where I saw that strange creature when I was 15, she contacted me and she explained to me that her grandmother lived near the other part that's in Salford, and she always felt like her grandmother had kept whatever darkness it was that the young lady saw within the house. She said it was more hideous than a werewolf. And it was afraid of her gran. It wouldn't look her gran in the eye, but it never took its eyes off her. And she said when her grandma passed away, the day of the funeral, the big gate at the side of the house fell down. And she felt at that point that that thing had been unleashed. So obviously that's been on my mind a lot, and the other cases that are in the down there. And there's, when I've looked, I've 2 more patterns have popped out. The fact that they're all kind of 1982. Which is really strange, isn't it? So that painting kept popping up, so I'd popped it over to her earlier, and I said, I don't know why, but I keep getting this painting. And I think it looks either like the lady's holding back the creature, or she's comforting him some way. And to me, it's both, because there's that continuous question, isn't there, of are they friends or are they foe? And that's one of the biggest questions I get asked. And being honest, I can't answer that for the witness, because each case is unique, isn't it? So I try and keep things as positive as possible, because anything that you feed negatively will probably go that way. And there is a case that I'm going to talk about a little bit later on. I realised when I was looking at the comments that were coming in and looking at some of the videos that were sent, there's an awful lot of people hearing really strange howls and growls, blood-curdling screams, wails that they can't identify. And a lot of them are seasoned farmers, outdoorsmen, ladies who have the horses and they live on farms, and they're used to all of that. And I realised that there, at the moment, is the I would say, the leading amount of cases that are coming in. So if you put like Bigfoot reports, they're incredibly rare. Dogman reports are definitely on the rise. But topping them are these shadowing events. I shared Nick Hayes' account. It happened in Oxfordshire, in the Live Alley. And he was going down to an area where two policemen saw what they described as a hair-covered creature, and basically described it like a dogman or a werewolf. I think it was Covey, but I'll have to double check on that. And Nick was walking down like towards the golf course, and it's like an embankment side. So a lot of them are the old railroad tracks, but they cut through the country parks and everything, and he was going that way. Something was on the side of the embankment following him along, and it was keeping pace with him, even though obviously he's on a tarmac path and that's having to go through the rough. And he said he caught it out, he stopped really quickly, and it took an extra step. So he knew that it wasn't his footsteps echoing or anything like that. And he said he knew that he was coming to a choke point and that that thing was getting out in front of him. And it let out this snarling, growling noise. So I ran it through one of the apps that I have, and it will tell me how often that's mentioned. As I put each thing onto the website, how often does that line come up? And as I say, it was quite a leading graph. So there are people out there experiencing this and writing into me and to the newspapers and reporting it to paranormal groups of this kind of shadowing, foreboding. And a lot of the times they'll say, this isn't as important, Deb, because I didn't see anything. And to me, that's more important, because that shows intelligence. That's something that's keeping you away from it, if you get what I mean. So you're not seeing it. You can't pinpoint where it is. And I don't know if it's doing that in fear, to feed on your fear, or it's doing that because it's got an interest in you. I don't know. They don't plug into me and say, right, Deb, this is why we're interested in this person. And I know it's a really crappy answer, and I wish I could give you a better one, but it seems to be on an individual basis what people experience. So there's a recent case coming from me, and every now and again I'll say that I'm trying to get the reports in my area all together in like one video so I can share them all. And I did some video shoots with a team, and unfortunately one of them's been very poorly and I've not been able to get the footage. So it's been a while since I've been able to get all of the Wigan reports together. And down in Wigan there is the case of what they call percher, and a lot of people talk about this 7-foot black humanoid thing with red eyes that will terrify kids really out on the flashes. There's a couple of reports of people who've seen something up in a tree with hairy legs. There are a number of reports where the River Douglas runs, and this is where the new case is coming from. So David Robinson is a chap I know, and in 2015, while visiting Woodland, walking the dog, he started, Billy will recognise this, to notice some really unusual structures that were being built and disappearing overnight. And before people say, oh, it'll be kids or bushcrafting, Elmwood Woods is like that. Yeah, it's not an easy place to get, is it, Mark? And it's not an easy place to get back from. And it's just like a gorge that runs, and it's woodland on either side of it. And when he was taking photographs, he found this teepee structure, and he went in and he tried to take a photograph of it, and the photographs just wouldn't come out. They're just like, I've seen them, they're like swirling mist. They're actually up on the website. And then he started to notice other things around the home, and what he described as wild humans. So like forest folk, or, like what we call a wild man, kind of like what I saw. And he's not the only one on this tract of land. And like all of the stories that I told you tonight, it's mining land. So we've got that ancient land that's been disturbed over time and mixed up and opened. And then you end up with like a tear in the fabric of that land. And I think it's all to do with that. And I remember filming with him down there. And there's a small stream that runs through. And the area felt fine to me. I was, normally if it's not going to be okay, I get a gut feeling before we actually get there. It was absolutely fine. I looked fine. And it was at a time when I wasn't really sick. I was quite well. And we went in and we had a chat. We stood next to the old mining works, and me and David had a really good talk while they filmed it. And then they wanted us to go further into the wood. And obviously, for me, that was a bit of a struggle. But it was only about 10, 20 steps. But it wasn't the physical. As I stepped back one more, it was awful. It was like something just was like, no. It was so angry. And I started to shake. I was visibly shaking. And you can see on the film, David literally holding me up. And I stepped forward and I said, no, I can't do it. And he was feeling it away as well. And we finished the interview. Mark couldn't get me out there quick enough, could he? By the end, I was white. You can see it. If you watch the premiere that's just been on, I look about 20 years older in it, and in the photograph of me and David. My cheeks were sunken in. I was so ill. And I got in the car, and I don't mind sharing that we had to stop 3 times because I was physically sick. I had no control over it. And I would say that I was hit with infrasound. There is a boundary line within that wood, and I was kind of cajoled into crossing it, let's put it like that. And it had a massive effect on me. Now, if I told that tale 250 years ago, people would say that was the glimmer that the fairy folk would put on you, the fae. And they would make you feel like that if you entered into areas that was completely wrong. Billy had the same kind of experience in Ireland. So I'm looking at all of these cases, and I'm looking at the ones that are taking place close to me. And I think there's got to be more. There's got to be more cases out there than I don't know of. So I've not been able to sit down with Dave for about 18 months. And serendipitously, he has been investigating those cases down there himself. And a lady contacted him. I think it was Thursday. It might be Wednesday if I'm wrong, but it was maybe Thursday. I think it was Thursday. I actually spoke to her yesterday. We've got 2 ladies that are out walking the dogs. One's familiar to the area, one isn't. And the week before, when one of the ladies been out, she'd lost a dog lead. So as they were walking across the area, and I'm just going to say it's on part of the moor in Standish, in one of the nature reserves there in Standish. As they're walking across, one lady goes, oh, there's your lead. And she bent down to pick it up. And as she bent down to pick it up, the other lady went, what was that? And she said, I didn't see it run, but I heard it. And it was wet and heavy, the ground. You could hear it like a heavy thing moving through the ground. And the other lady said it was definitely canine, but it was bigger at the back end than it was at the front. And it was all brindle in colour. Now, Vicky, who's in the chat, raised a really good question. She said, do you think, because I believe that some of the things that we see will change their appearance in order for you to accept them, or they will change their appearance into what works for you best or what scares you the best, depending on what their agenda is. So if it's a positive agenda, they're going to soften themselves down for you, so you'll kind of get into that relationship. If they're there to frighten you, then they will frighten you and feed on that fear. So this thing's just run past really quickly. And she said, I'm just worried about, will we get anything negative from it? And I said, well, no, it's obviously, if you wanted to scare you, it had been towering over you right there at that moment, and it would have fed on the fear that it needed, or it would have shadowed you around. An instant scare is probably like McDonald's, and to take someone through a wood to absolute terror where they're bottlenecking to the end. Can you imagine the fear coming off that person? So if that was its intent, it would have done that then, I think. And I said, I don't think it was that. At this time of year, it's very, very rare that we get any reports. They tend to die off. I don't think it's just to do with bad weather at all. I think it's a time that they go, and I'm not sure where they go. But we do get winter reports. But what Vicky raised, really, Vicky, I've never actually sat and thought of that question before. All of the cases that I've done and all of the places that I've worked, I've never actually considered that. And there are cases like that. Do you remember the case that I told you about in the New Forest, where there was a lady and a gent, and they were having a kiss and a cuddle, and they saw a wild man? After that event, about 4 or 6 weeks later, they were out walking their dog, and she said that this animal came out of the woodland, and she couldn't peg what it was. She said it wasn't a dog, it wasn't a fox, it wasn't a wolf. I don't know what it was. I don't know what it was. I get a lot of reports where people say, I've seen this really strange fox. It's not the same colour as a fox, and it's a lot bigger than a fox, and it was kind of brindle, and it didn't have a fox's tail. But I don't know what it is. And I've been trying to think of flesh and blood things, or things of the fae that would present like that. So like this crusade or something that would present in a dog-like way. I'd never actually considered the fact, could these entities, I suppose they could, couldn't they? If they can appear like an 8-foot tall dog man that's thickly muscled and towering and instantly go down to the ground and off, I would imagine that they can change. I mean, it's really interesting, isn't it? Now I want to get on my map and go, right, how many of those cases have I got? Because I've got my map up there. How many of those cases have I got where the person said, I don't know what animal it was? Because there's quite a few. So what I'll do is, as I normally do, I'll put them together in a podcast, so we can hear more of them at once, because I think you get to see the patterns that way better. So yeah, so I've done my update. So what I'm going to do is I am going to go and visit the lady, and I'm going to meet up with Dave as well. We're going to go down to the stables there while we have a chat about what happened on that day, and I will definitely bring it to you. And then I will put all of the Wigan reports together in one podcast, and we'll read them, because they're spread out as normal. Because when I first started them, it was like 2018, and we're on 2024 now, so obviously there's more cases. And I'd like to do that with more areas, because I've been amazed at how many people don't know just how many reports there are out there. So I've seen a lot of groups in the last couple of weeks who've gone, there's nothing in the UK, and you're like, there's loads of stuff in the UK. Where do you live? And they'll say like, right, I live near the Quantock Hills, and you'd be like, right, well, here's some cases from the Quantock Hills. So I've been doing quite a bit of that in the last couple of weeks. I found it really interesting. So I will be asking you guys later if anywhere you want me to have a look at. So that's me next one. I'm just going to have a scroll through now. If there's any questions in capitals, I should be able to see them. And if not, I apologise. Oh, Darren, thank you for becoming a member. That's really kind of you. I appreciate every and all support. Any questions? Oh, Joe's told him, hasn't she? Any questions? Next, I'm going to talk about John Ship and the cabinet. A lot of people were really interested in that video. And John was a delivery driver. I think it was Waltham-on-Thames, if I remember right. And he was delivering to a place, and he noticed this really scary cabinet that kind of gave off a bad feel. So he went home and he was telling his dad about it. And he said, I had a BlackBerry phone back then. So the next time I had to do a delivery down there, he took a photograph of it. I'll go on to that one. And he said, Brian if you need to know about the new report of the pigman that's in Cannock Chase, hit Brian up. He's got all of the information on that one. He's the one running that case. I'm not running that one. Right, I'll do Glassy's question. Glassy's just asked me which part of the New Forest, and this is a problem. It was near the Abbey. She's not from the area. They were driving somewhere else, and kind of, that thing where you're like, actually, let's just stop here and go for a walk. That happened. So I think Mike will be able to tell me, but was it Tinton Abbey we worked it out as? But yeah, if you need more info on it, message me and I'll put you in touch with her. She's really easy, elastic. Almost she doesn't mind sharing. And she's had some kind of interaction at home. There were some handprints on her daughter's bedroom. And I think we chatted about it, didn't we, Glass? And I remember saying to you, the window's actually in a gated passage. So for those handprints to be on that window, somebody's had to come in that gated passage and do it that way. But yeah, getting back to John Ship. So John's a delivery driver, and he's took this photograph of a cabinet. He took a photo, took it home to his dad. And he said, I noticed that there's like a really strange face within it. And it just give off this creepy vibe. So he sent it over to me. And unfortunately, he's not got the BlackBerry anymore. So he's not got the original image. But luckily, he did some close-ups of it on his computer, so he has got them, and that's what he shared with me. It's actually up on the community page if you want to go and read it and see the images themselves. And he also had a number of UFO reports, and they were in Cirencester, which I shared along with that report. So I've had to look through comments and messages, and I've had quite a lot of people get in touch with me about it. I just haven't had a chance to sit down and do it at any point. Because I've been off sick, everything starts to pile up, you know, as it does. And I've got lots of people now who are taking cases off my hands, so I can free me up and I can do more resting. So normally that's what I do on a Monday now. I send cases out to people and I say, can you have a look at that? You have a look at that. And then I'm free to just get the podcast ready or talk to people. I also did an interview this week with Claire from the Fairy podcast, which I know you guys will absolutely love. And we were talking about some modern day fairy reports like the Wee Folk and Little Men. From my perspective, and on Tuesday I'm going to sit down with Claire again, and I'm going to interview her about her experiences with the Fae. And I'll share that with you guys. And as her podcast comes out on YouTube, I'll also share the link to that so you can go along and watch it there. But it was a really interesting interview. Really, really interesting. We really gelled, we did. And I said, so if you want me to come back, I'd love to interview you so my listeners can hear it. And she's like, yeah, sure. So I was like, right, well, let's do this again. So that'll be coming up in the next couple of weeks. Right, I need to get my laptop for this one. 1 second. I need to pull my map up. 1 minute. So, earlier, when I did the premiere, I started out with the Mary Lloyd. And whoever doesn't know who the Mary Lloyd is, it's that kind of horse-headed, awful thing that happens in Wales around Christmas. And they get like a horse's skull. It's from way back, pagan times. A horse's skull, and she's always wrapped. And they decorate the skull, and she's got like blazing eyes and stuff. And is that better? Yeah. So and they go around the village, and that's what they do. And it's a Welsh tradition. Now, there was a couple of young lads who, for years and years, generations, going back through time, they've always said that the Mary Lloyd lived in this shack on the side of the mountain. So they've decided that, being teenagers, they were going to go up and solve this problem, solve the mystery of the Mary Lloyd. And he said when they got up there was nothing there, absolutely nothing there. They looked in the shack, there was nothing in the shack. But as they were coming down, they saw what he described as an 8-foot hairy thing that was on the gravel path. So they've dropped the bikes and they've run. Now, I don't have any other reports on that mountain range physical. I've got that report, the 8-foot hairy man, and then on the next ridge line, you've got the black, what they call it, the Black Hills werewolf, because it's in Wales. But what I have got is a number of reports in a line going between those two areas of howls, growls, blood-curdling screams, whooping that they blamed on a phantom. I think whooping has just astonished me. And it said that whooping would lead people into the woodland and just draw them in further and further until they kind of got lost. And the next thing, they would suddenly come to where they started, glimmering, infrasound. See where I'm going with this, guys? It all seems interweaved. So I did a historical report tonight that came in through the Latter-day Saints from a gentleman who is in America, in Utah, and he's looking down his family line. And when one of his family members was being baptized in the 1800s, all of the noise stopped. All of the animals stopped, and this mighty roar took place. And obviously, because it was the 1800s, they blamed it on a demon. That is no different to the reports we're getting at the moment of people walking their dogs or hiking or mountain biking that are hearing blood-curdling growls. I took one this week of a lady stood in a caravan at the side of the caravan having a last fag of the night when she heard a growl. I was in Benton with Deb Singleton, and we were doing exactly the same thing. And we both saw something run between the caravans, and the campsite were empty. There was hardly anyone on it. It was like very early March. So just at the end of Feb, very early March. It wasn't packed out for people. And we both saw something. It was quite creepy, that. So no matter what period of time you're in, the same things are being reported. But obviously, because years ago there was no global communication, they were put down as like the fae or a boggart or a bullbeggar or whatever your local word was for whatever was going wrong out there. Werewolves have been in Welsh history as far back as you can go. I think one of the first Welsh gods had 2 daughters that could switch from wolves to females. Same kind of thing in Ireland with Eritech. The word mac in Scotland comes from the wolf. We were talking tonight when I was talking about this one, the historical one. When you go back in history and look at the very first report from Ink Pen, it was in 98 AD. It was like forever ago. And obviously they went, oh, it was a demon. But when you look at it, it's prime dogman country. And there's a lot of big cat reports down there. So maybe it's just, in modern times, we give them a different name. In the same sense that I believe modern British Bigfoot reports are the same as the Woodwose reports. And tonight, when I was going through the questions, I needed to catch up on YouTube and go through all of the comments, because I do like to answer them all if I can. And I get a lot of information that comes in that way. And somebody spoke to me about, I'm going to pull it up. It really intrigued me. 1 second. I'm on my map. So I haven't done any work on it. I've just copied it from the comment. And if you remember last week, I was talking about Herne the Hunter and people who see like the Green Man, or they see someone with antlers on top of their head. And we do get modern day reports of that. So he said, "Hi, Deborah. I lived in Bristol for many years and I know oh, I've just got right re-download in my ear then. I don't know what that was. I'll start again. I lived in Bristol for many years and I know Lee Woods and Vassals Park well. When camping once in Lee Woods with a group of friends, one of the guys swore he could see a man in the bushes watching us. He had green skin and he was bearded and he had antlers on top of his head. My friend could only see him from the waist up. I couldn't see it when he pointed to the area. He was fairly shaken. It watched for several minutes and then it walked away into the undergrowth. Well, that, like I say, 300 years ago, that would be Cernunnos. That would be seen as the god of the woods, you know. And somebody once said to me, Debbie, what if they just stuck a pair of antlers, you know, like the Native Americans and the Neanderthals and the early man's done forever, that you use the skin of the beast you're hunting to camouflage yourself. And Beltane would dress as a woodland beast. And they said to me, what if it's that? What if we see them when they're hunting, and they're hunting as a native would, and we see these horns, and that's why we've always talked about this horn god that within the woods. And I thought it's a very modern take on it. But to see that they're still coming in now, even in these days, is remarkable, isn't it? So I had a couple of people in the comments, and I've not got them all. I'll have to carry them on to next time's YouTube live stream. But Sally it was a lady called S. Mins. I don't know why I said Sally then. S. Mins, and that was the one about Lee Woods. So the next one was, is there anything in the Quantock Hills? Now, there isn't in the hills themselves, but you have got 2 historical reports of what they call the Girt Dog in the Quantock Hills. Let me just pull it up on the map. But what you have got is other reports around them. Now, Glasser, who's in the comments, has been investigating these for me in the past couple of weeks. I'm talking about the Woody Bay account. But let's do Quantock first. So, there are many reports in the Quantock Hills of a strange howling. Some people have called it like the wail of a big cat. Other people have said it was like a monster black dog that lives within the Quantock Hills. So there have been many savagely gored pets and dogs, sheep and other farm animals, and strange howls in the middle of the night. This is a newspaper report. All have been reported in the last 10 years or so in the Quantock Hills. Well, this report is from 2017. So from 2007 to 2017, there are many stories, and there have been many sightings over the years of mysterious beasts, big panther-like cats and monstrous black dogs. These strange creatures are even now supposed to inhabit the wild and moorland. Many people have reported savagely gored pets, cats, dogs, sheep, other farm animals, and strange howls in the middle of the night. And then we have the historical report of the Gert dog, or Great Dog, as you would say down there. It said his territory includes the Quantock Hills, and he is most often reported on the winding trackways of the Mendips. It said that mothers would allow their children to play, but not unsupervised in the hills, as they believed the Gert dog would look after them. But the creature does not just take care of children. It said that he will accompany any lost traveller. So it must be like a good dog. So it's out. I'm so used to reading bad reports. I read that one wrong. But yeah, Woody Beg. I've told you this case before. A long while ago, there was a lady who, her husband said he was giving up smoking, and they lived out on the edge of the cliff top there at Devon. And she contacted me because she stormed out one evening, and her husband had annoyed her in some way. And she said, I stormed out of the house and my dog has abandonment issues to the point where he's actually injured himself trying to get to me in other situations. And as she's left the house, which is out there, there's nothing out there, just like a farm track. It's quite steep. And Glassy went down to the area from it. I've just sat down and watched the video that he did for me that he sent over. And the terrain, basically, there are a number of reports, and they seem to be following the river, as we know, out onto the sea. And we were talking amongst ourselves about whether it was salt or not. That lady said she believes that whatever she walked into that night, her dog had picked up on it because it wouldn't leave and come with her. And she said she just suddenly felt the atmosphere change. She knew she'd walked into something. There was something on the hill at this side, and it was clicking. And there was something lower down on the embankment that answered. And she said, I'm absolutely convinced that they were hunting something. They were driving something down that hill into a hunting party. And she was so frightened that they sold up and moved into the town, or closer to the town. Steve went down and had a look for me, had a look at the land. And there are a number of other reports in the area. One being a dogman that was seen on Capstone Hill. Now, if you follow that coastal path along from Woody Bay, that's when you'll come to Capstone Hill. So the next highest point along. A YouTube comment popped on the video, and it said, my boyfriend saw the silhouette of a dogman shape on Capstone Hill in Ilfracombe. It really freaked me out when he told me, and I accepted what he said. This was 18 and 19 years ago on the Devon coast. I remember him describing the hands as having long, what appeared to be claws that stretched out. At the time, I thought he was describing a werewolf. Then we have two reports further along the coast that way. So we're going back this way this time. Same coastline. We've got the Linton werewolf and a case of a wolf-headed man. All of these reports took place in February. Different years, different times, but all in February. So I'm going to suggest, as me and Steve agreed, are they following the day through that area at that time of year when there's not a plentiful amount of food about? And we also mulled over the idea that every mammal on the planet has to have salt. And we are so take it for granted, don't we? We just go to the shop and we buy it. But there's a reason they say, is he worth his salt? Because once it was far more expensive than gold, because back then it was so hard to get. Is that what they're doing? In the lean time, are they moving through that area, picking up on the resources that are there as they come through? I suppose if anyone was brave enough, we'd set up a, February, we'd need to get someone in there or get some game cameras in there or something like that if we could. But from about Minehead, like I say, all the way across to Ilfracombe, you've got a line of dogman reports. And then just as you come into the national park at Exmoor, you've got two what are classed as 8-man or British Bigfoot reports. So it's clearly an active area and there's a lot going on around there. So that was the question too. Have you got anything in the Quantock Hills? Not in that area, but I think they're following that coastline. Let me get the estuary name right. I don't want to get it wrong. So they're following that coastline, and as they go around, they're going past Burnham-on-Sea, Breen, Weston-super-Mare, and then we get another cluster of reports, and we've got a cluster of reports on the other side of the estuary, where you've got Barry and Roos. So there's definitely a pattern forming where all along the estuary there are reports of dog-like or ape-like or wolf-like, down on all fours animals that people have reported over the years. So that's that one. Market Rasen, I had a report. Do you know what I'll tell you about? Declan has just asked me in the chat, not in capitals, but I'll let you off this time, Declan. If I have any reports in Market Rasen, and I do. My dad used to take us to Market Rasen. And one of the first jobs we had as kids, that when they had the big races in the morning, we used to go out with a sack on the race course and pick rubbish up and stuff like that, and we used to get paid for it. And then obviously when the racing was over at the end of the day, we used to do it again, and you'd have us all out there like go on, get out and earn your crust kind of thing. Absolutely love that area. We used to go down at least twice a year because I used to love fishing down there as well, so I know it well. So when COVID was on, a report came in. If you remember at the time, we couldn't, it was right at the time where we couldn't travel, and the only people allowed to travel were vital workers or people who were delivering, like food, oil, petrol, you know, that kind of thing. Essential journeys only. So I've just got to get it up on my map. Let me get the Scarby one up. It's easy to find it that way. This is another area where there is a cluster of reports, and I'll explain it a bit more in a second. So the Market Rasen was, I can even tell you what road it were on. 1 second. I had 3 reports in that area. So, let me get it. It's a bit slow, my internet. The first report in the area is an 8-foot black figure moving at speed. And then there's a chap who saw something near the cemetery at Scarby. Then if you were travelling Cosgill Way, Barnethley Wold Way, you've got a guy who saw a 10-foot tall dark figure out there on the roads. Let me just get the Market Rasen one up. Come here, where have you gone? Right, it happened on the 6th of the 4th, 2020 at 8:30 p.m. And the chap's name is Sean Spikins. He said, I had a strange experience close to Market Rasen on Tuesday, the 7th of April. I was driving on Riverbane Road towards the A157 about 8:15 p.m. I was driving around a bend with my full beam on, and as soon as I got around the bend, I noticed something through the cab window. I think I saw a Sasquatch. I don't know what else to call it. I immediately slowed down to get a clear look at it, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing at the time. I saw it clearly, to the point that I could see the whole left side of its body, from its head to its toe. The head on it looked more oval and longer in shape at the top. This creature was on the right-hand side of the road, about 30 metres away from me. It was standing in a small forest, and it was facing away from me, so I could only see its back and side. It was tall, at least 8 foot tall, and very thick and extremely muscular in its body. It looked to be a thick, dark brown in colour. Its hands were easily past its knees, with very long and muscular arms. Its upper body was a lot thicker than the lower part, and its legs. And the shoulders looked to be twice the size of a silverback gorilla in body mass. And I've seen those in the zoo. It got about 10, 15 metres closer by like creeping in the van. And as I did that, it dipped slightly and stepped and moved off into the trees and it was gone. So he's kind of sat there for a bit, like, what do I do now kind of thing. Trauma shock, we call it, trauma dump. So you're there and you're like, what the hell was that? So he's moved the van up a bit more and he's looked where it was and there was a dead rabbit on the floor. He said, I could see a freshly killed rabbit on the floor, exactly where it had been standing. But there was no visual sign of blood or an injury on the rabbit. It looked like a quick and instant kill. So yeah, so that's Market Rasen. But just further along that road, if we come in a bit more, there is this report at Willingham Woods. Now, this report says, my husband and myself were camping in Willingham Woods and we're keen bird watchers. And on the first night we stayed there, everything was fine. On the second night, we were startled out of the tent by a loud screech or howl. Not a noise we've heard before, and we have camped many, many times. I asked my husband what bird was making the noise, as he's really good at bird noises, and he said he had no idea. It was about 3 a.m. when we heard the call. It was very quiet and still in those woods. Off to my left, I could see eye to eye with this thing, and it had greenish eye shine. And that settled us as it was dark, and my husband explained it was probably just an owl sitting on a branch. And at that point, the owl stood up to about 7 feet tall and started to walk off from us. We packed up at 6 a.m. and we will not be returning. And they're just along that same stretch of road there. You've got accounts at the top up near Immingham. So again, where the estuary humber, the humber for the, what am I trying to say? The Humber's estuary, where that is. And then, let me come down. They sit between two estuaries, don't they, here at this point? And all of that area until you get right the way down to Curtin, Boston area, that kind of area. There is a mass of like reports that run along that coastal section again. So we could be looking at something that's looking for food. Right, 1 second. The next one. Now, this next one's only a short one. The next one is in Appledore. Now, I had to look Appledore up. I didn't know where it was. It sounds very Harry Potter, doesn't it? And this is, it's a bit creepy. A chap called Johnny Hall, and he left it in my comments, and I'm grateful that you did, Johnny. He said, I suddenly became widowed, and I used to walk a lot. I was walking at dusk across rural Kent alone, in between Appledore, Woodchurch, and High Hayling. I was skirting around a wooded area, and I knew something that was not human was watching me. And in my head, I heard the words, man flesh. I put a little more distance between myself and the wood's edge, and I increased my pace. In my small rucksack, I always carry some snacks, some water, and I've got a really small axe that my father gave me. And I was full of spirit back then and fearless. This wasn't the only time I felt followed, but most of the time out there, I felt an affinity to the greater one and protected. Now, just below him, at Sheerness, is it Sheerness? There is a Dungeness. There is a report from a researcher I know very, very well. And she described the creature that she saw. She said when she first saw it, thought she didn't have a head. It was like 2020, but it was kind of hunched over. So from Market Rasen down to Dungeness, we follow that coast. We've got a 2020 report and a 2020 report, both during COVID. So they can do that, or they can follow the river up and do so that you've got Optimum, haven't you? And then you could just keep going until you ended up wherever it was you wanted to go. So something's being reported. This was October. Let's have a look. For April was the other one, wasn't it, in Market Rasen? So between October and April 2020, people were seeing stuff. I don't know. So that's the last one that I got. So I'm going to have a scroll through now. I'll look at the chat and see if anyone else has left me any. 1 second. I'm sorry if I haven't been in the chat tonight. I can't type and do what I do. I find it really distracting. I just can't do it. Oh, it's lovely to see everyone chatting about what they think dogmen are, and it's conversations that we need to be having, isn't it? I mean, I say it a lot. People get bored with me saying it, I think. Right, so really Raymond said, I've recently started a milk round in rural Lincolnshire, which is night work. I want to ask if there is a map of the sighting so I can see if any of my drops are at high risk. Right, if you could email me at debbiehatswell@gmail.com, I can send you a map of the sighting reports. Or if you can't access the map, you tell me where you are and I'll give you the reports that are in that area. I might have some private info as well that I've not published. If not, drop a comment on either one of the videos on YouTube, because I always read them. It might take me a couple of days, but I always go through the comments. Let me know and I'll give you my email in there and we can get together that way. But no, I don't mind. Someone asked me about Rotherham the other day. They were like, Debbie's the any reports in Rotherham? The map's got so big now, for some people it's just not opening. I have a really decent laptop because it's my job and it's what I do, so it's easy for me. I need to make it into an app. So I need to team with someone who knows what they do when it comes to making an app. I have no idea about that. But I want to make an app where you put your town name in and it will pull up. You know, like when you go on eBay and you put in like wooden leg and it'll say to you, do you want something in the next 10 mile, next 20 mile, next 50? I'd love to do that with it. So you can put your town name in and it'll pull up whatever reports are in your area. And I could update it every day with new stuff. You see, I'd love to be able to do that. And then I'd be able to add on any prints that I found, any info I've got on the area. Steve does a lot of work for me where he looks at the terrain, because what that man doesn't know about the terrain and the way they move through it is not worth knowing. So he'll look at an area for me and tell me what the terrain is. Say, Debbie, I think this is a possible route. Dr. Mack in Ireland is very good at doing that. He's really good at finding choke points for me. And because he's studied big cat across the world, he knows their habits. And he said, like, most predators follow suit. So if you've got a big cat moving through an area, another apex predator would probably use the same route. So I can do a lot of that, and I'd be able to put that information on the app. I think it's a really good idea. I don't even know how you'd go about funding it, but it's something I think I'm going to sit down and see if I can work out. Somebody that, you know, one of my followers or something, like, well, actually, Deb, I know how to do that. And I think more people could access it then. But yeah, if anyone's interested in an area, just pop a comment on one of my videos and I will get back to you, or just email me. On every video, there's a description, and when you click on it, there's a link there, and it'll take you to all my sites. So it'll say like Deb's website, Deb's Facebook page, Deb's podcast, and it'll say Deb's Deb's email, and you can just click on it, and it'll take you through. It's called Linktree, so it saves me. Right, so Glassy's saying he'll go and have a look at Quantock Woods for me and get me a good terrain on that one. Let's see where they're moving through from. I'm just checking, see if anyone's got any. Oh, when I finish, I'm absolutely starving. Can I put up a link to the sightings map? 1 second, I can. Give me a moment. It'll take me a minute. I'll keep going while I'm doing it. It's so big now. I mean, it started out, it was nothing. It was just on the wall. But now the sighting map is so big and there's so much information on it. It started to crash. So I'm trying to do a weekly thing where I go through and I'm shortening the reports so that it's less information, and I'm putting them on the website and adding the website link. So it'll say like this week, it'll say new report in Wigan, and it'll have a little bit, and then it'll say see the full report, click on the link, and it'll take you over to the website, and the full report will be there with like images and anything else that I've got. Trying to streamline it, if you get what I mean, for people, so it's much easier. Right, I'm just coming over to the chat now. I can be in 2 places at once when I do it. Better mute it, and they'll be hearing me twice. No, mute, not down, mute. That'll do us. I've just got to watch this advert on my own video so I can come into my own chat and put the link. Yeah, YouTube sometimes. There we go. Do you not get enough money off me as it is? You take all my earnings in tax, you buggers. No, I want to be in my own chat. I won't do it. It won't let me in the chat. 1 second. Are we doing it? Whitney Houston, we had a problem then. One sec. Yeah, it's still not letting me in. Maybe I'm not subscribed to myself, I don't know. How ridiculous. I literally can't comment in my own chat on my own channel on YouTube. I don't know what to do. No, well, the answer to that one is no, because YouTube won't let me do it. They're not normal, are they? They're the most ridiculous rules known to man. I'll put that down 1 second. Oh, sorry about that, folks. In a second, I am gonna get going in a minute. I can feel my lips clemming. And now we know what that means. That means Debbie needs water and sugar. And then I'm a bit more lively than I used to be, thankfully. But Mark's been looking after me well. We've not been for our weekly ride up top, have we? Because the snow's been so bad. We've not been. Are there any cryptid sightings on the Scottish Islands? 1 second. There are, actually. There's a Loch Lomond bear. Jumped to mind instantly. 2 reports of what we would call an 8-man or a British Bigfoot at Loch Ness. There is a report of a red-headed werewolf in Loch Awe. Culloden, there are a number of reports of a tall, 8-foot, gingery red colour, like the rose bay goes in autumn, that kind of colour. 2, a poacher had seen it taking fish from his nets one time. Also in that area, around this time of year, deer legs get hung up in the trees, which is quite strange. Golspie, Inverness area, we've got a number of reports of ape-like creatures. So there's a lot in Scotland. You'd have to narrow the areas down for me. But once again, send me, get in touch with me and I'll send you the link to it. So you can go and peruse it at your leisure. And if you can't open them, just get onto the website. It's free. Everything on the website's free. And you'll get reports as you come out. When I get the report in, I tend to put them to my YouTube members and patrons. They get them first because obviously they're paying a subscription every month. And that helps me and Mark, because me and Mark fund this on our own. And then about 2 or 3 days later, I put them out publicly on the website or on Facebook so other people can read them. I never hold something back for weeks on end. I wouldn't do that unless it's like with Chrissy at the haunted house in Lincolnshire, where it's a case that's gone on for like 12 months. There might be bits that I've held back. I'm sitting down with Chrissy actually, and we're going to have a chat because now she's ready to talk about what happened there or herself. And I said it might be cathartic for you to do that. And she'd be able to give you much more detail than me. I've got some really interesting cases coming up in the next couple of months for you all. And with it being winter, it's an easier time for me to do it because I'm stuck at home anyway. Uncaged savage pot, some kind of shapeshifter a government attempts at making. There are a number of reports in the UK, here I go, on MOD land, Military of Defence land. Is it Ministry of Defence? I always get it wrong, don't I? That talk about exactly that. A hybrid cross, a super soldier of some kind. R.F. Bempton, Alconbury. There's a few of them I can think of. Salisbury Plain. A lot on the northeast coast, where you get the old stinker and the werewolf reports. There's a lot of hybridized. One lady called it a robotic dogman. It jumped across in front of the car as she was driving, and she said it looked robotic in nature. A couple of them in Buxton, she said it was animalistic and it looked like it had weaponized hands, which is very telling, isn't it? You know. But yeah, even Fred down in Bedfordshire said he tapped on the window with something that resembled something between a hand and a paw. And I heard that about 3 or 4 times after I took it from Fred. It was like other people said it, and I was like, oh my Lord, almost word for word, like a cross between a hand and a paw. That must have been absolutely horrifying. But I hope you don't mind if I hang up my hat now. I'll give you an hour. I'm going to go and have a cup of tea, my rice pudding. I've been waiting for it all day, haven't I, Mark?
Yep.
Lazy old Roy's gone in there on the bed, and Mark's chilled out watching a film with these things on. So I can put my clock back up now, Brian, can I? Yeah, Tracy mad. And I'm going to try and pin Brian down and get him to tell me all about the spooky house with the set of glowing eyes that he came across in the last 2 weeks. And Joe, hit Joe up because she's discovered now she's back upstairs that there's a really creepy house right over the road from her. And she sent me a picture of it, and I'm a brave lass and I wouldn't go in there. Not for love nor money. But yeah, I'll be back with a normal premiere next Saturday. And the Saturday after that, I'll be back doing a live stream for you all. So if you want me to talk about a case that's in your area, pop me a comment or hit me up on one of my socials. Or if there's something you want me to share on the show, some topic I've not done that you're really interested in. People keep saying to me, Debbie, you've got to do Banshees, because of your Irish thing, you've got to do Banshees. So I was like, well, I'll sit down and give you my Banshees cases. But they kind of scare me a little bit then. They'll follow you to the ends of the earth, them ladies, won't they? Yeah, so see you later, radiator, as we say. No, I'll be back next Saturday, and there will be an interesting report coming out on Wednesday, so keep your eye out for that one. But until then, thank you very much for joining me, as you do all of the time. I really appreciate it. So from me and Mark, good night, everyone.
Good night.